on Qualcomm AI Hub. We'll talk through what this product means, what it does, and just how it will affect your daily lives. But before we go into all of that, I like to ask this question: if there's any experience with AI that you guys remember from recent time that you interacted with, if anybody remembers any single one. I'll start with mine, which is it's sort of performance review seasons and peer feedback season. I have to kind of give a lot of feedback. So on the plane was my task of, okay, I'm going to lock this time down. I have nothing else to do. I'm going to start giving feedback. And where do you go to? I went to ChatGPT. Because I'm like, I'm not going to construct 7 sentences. I want to write this, but somebody to elaborate on it, and that will be ChatGPT. And then the Wi-Fi went down. So now I have to think about all these sentences. And a friend of mine, a colleague of mine, told me today that LM Studio can do it on the device. So you can just give it a paragraph, which is a very powerful app on Snapdragon X Elite, and you can use that, and you can rewrite the words. And I was like, this is very, very cool. So that was my interaction with AI in the very recent times. Another recent experience was, recently I went to Yellowstone and I rented a car. And this was, somehow I got upgraded and I got this fancy car. And I was driving it, going through Lamar Valley and all of those, and it started drizzling a little bit. So I turned on the wiper. And you have there's an on setting and then there is an off setting. But there's also this middle setting where it goes like slightly, starts working slightly. And how do I turn that off? So I was struggling while I was driving, saying, this is not turning off. I finally turned it stopped, and the back wiper turned on. I'm like, I'm just doing something extremely wrong here. It's not working. Then it started signaling something like Siri to me, saying, you can actually tell the car to turn off the wiper. So I'm like, oh, this is an audio that you can speak to. That to me, that was, again, an AI experience where I was suddenly, oh, AI is actually saving my time, solving my problem for me. The reason I'm telling you all of this is because at Qualcomm, we are very, very intimately familiar with this problem. We think about it all the time. We think about how do we make all of the devices powerful? How do we make all applications and devices more intelligent without any connectivity to the cloud? Because our semiconductor, our chipsets, our SoCs go into these devices. And is there a way of running AI efficiently on these devices is what we constantly think about. I spoke about a few experiences. These are some that you may have come across in your day-to-day. For instance, back from the time when AI used to be just some visual applications or pose detection or segmentation, it has come a long way. Now we have all things around. You've seen dictation, you talk to your phone, you talk to your lot of devices at home. There's text recognition. And in camera, if you actually use your phone and you click a picture, there are about 25 models that run back to back in that 1 second window on the phone to take that picture with perfect lighting, with perfect exposure, and so on. So that's what's happening now. And the world is moving even more and more towards magical stuff that can happen on the device. But to do that, on the device, there are a couple of processes. There's a CPU, there's a GPU, there's an NPU. And you as a developer, if you're building an application, you're thinking of putting an model into the application, you have to think about how do I leverage all 3 of these? How do I actually get the model working on the NPU exactly? This is a challenge because each one of these are powered to do certain specific things. GPU, I give an example of GPU like this big sumo who, if you give it powerful sets of consistent data, gaming, for instance, constant processing, large chunks, it'll do it extremely well. CPU is like a very performant athlete runner. If you give it short bursts of continuous data, it is phenomenal. NPU is a ninja chip. It's a matrix multiplier. It's an AI-specific chip. As a developer, you don't necessarily want to peek into that or understand that too heavily because you would want everything else to take care of it. And that's one of the challenges that you face as you're doing AI on the device. And we've come to realize, we've seen developers come in, build a lot of applications. However, it is still very, very hard to do AI on the device. Why is it hard? There are a bunch of training frameworks. There's TensorFlow, there's PyTorch, a whole other number of them, and on the device as well. You have to leverage one of these frameworks to say, okay, now I'm using TensorFlow Lite, or I'm using Onyx as a runtime, or I'm using QNN, which is a proprietary runtime from Qualcomm, for Qualcomm chips. And oftentimes, you have to figure out, how do I run this model for my application on newer devices, older devices, and future coming devices, right? All the chips that are in these devices may be different. One may have slightly more power. Newer may have a slightly powerful NPU. Older may have less powerful NPU. And you have to figure out that the model consistently works on previous generation devices, new generation devices, current generation devices. You will hit, you may have seen these errors. You'll often hit the errors where, oh, the app crashes suddenly because the OS cannot handle it. Or you'll get this error around, oh, this chip does not support these operators that you have provided. There is very high latency, and your experience requires, you can't tell if you're doing something like face recognition. You can't tell your customer that, hey, go get a coffee and it'll recognize your face. Latency is very important. So you can't handle high latency or incorrect results or too much memory. These are very common use things that developers see, and we've been looking at this very, very actively. And that's why we went around to build Qualcomm AI Hub with the goal of solving these three problems. How can developers very easily get started with on-device AI, specifically on-device AI? There's no connectivity to the cloud. How do we get them to think of on-device AI as a go-to before even they try it on the cloud? How can we ensure that the performance and accuracy, no matter which chip they use, older generation, newer generation, it's always the same and great? And how can we actually allow for them to experiment and rapidly iterate on bringing AI on the device? That brings us to Qualcomm AI Hub, and I'll talk through exactly what it does. It's a very simple platform. There's a demo right across this door. When you go out, there's a booth. You can go and see it, and you can play around with it yourself. The platform allows you to either pick a model. We have 100+ models, which we've already taken and run them across Qualcomm and Snapdragon-based devices. You can pick one of those models that are listed there, or you can bring your own model from a research paper, from open source. You then pick the target platform. Target platform is really the device that you care about. You can say that I want to run this model on Samsung S23, S24, S22, or Snapdragon X Elite. Under the hood, we will go and fetch that device. This is a real device. It's not a virtual device. It's a physical device that we have put up on a rack in data centers. And we will then pull that device. We will pick a right runtime for you, whether it's Onyx or TF Lite or QNN, or we'll let you choose. If you're playing with Onyx across the board, then you can choose that. And that's it. These are the steps you do. You make choices here. And then you hit upload. And we'll go ahead and set everything up from the OS on the device to the framework on the device and get the model run on the device. And within 5 minutes and 5 lines of code, you'll get answers to 2 questions. Does this model work on this device? Does it even run on the device? And if it does run, what is the performance? What is the accuracy? How well does it run on the device? So within 5 minutes, you'll be able to see that. And if all looks good, you can download the artifact. You can go and deploy the model on your physical devices. So that's the idea around AI Hub. As I said, we have 100+ pre-optimized models. You can bring your own model, and you can test the model within 5 minutes and 5 lines of code. Today, we are focused very heavily on enabling all of these parts, which means we are laser focused on making any framework, model from any framework, work across any runtime and any OS, and on any compute unit, which is you can also within the platform choose and say, hey, I want to run this model only on CPU, or I want to run the model only on GPU, and we'll allow you to do that. So that gives you flexibility, because sometimes if you're building a gaming app, you want to say, hey, don't touch the GPU. I'm using it for something else. I only want you to use maybe periodically CPU and mostly NPU. So you can do those things. A developer workflow is something like that. This is just one click down from what I said before. Under the hood, the platform does following. It will convert your model. It will optimize your model, which means it will make it really shine on the Qualcomm and Snapdragon platforms. That's something that will happen under the hood. That is a compile process that runs. Post that, if you would want to quantize the model, we have workflow where you can just, again, upload a small amount of data and say, go quantize my model. We'll use the appropriate quantization scheme to get your model quantized. And finally, you can pick a runtime and you can say, OK, go ahead and actually prepare this for the target device, and we'll then go do the rest. At the end of this journey, when you download the asset, we also have easy access to the SDK as well as a sample app to demonstrate how you can actually take that and put it on the device which is on your desk. Right? So that completes your journey from starting with, perhaps even I don't know anything about on-device AI, to actually getting a model working on a physical device, which is near you. A quick story about one of our customers. This is a very small company, Full Track. It's a little startup. Their application was doing certain detection. It's a sports app. It detects and live scores, the poses of cricketers or swing sport players, and gives around metrics. A lot of judges in the field are using that. A lot of players are using that. And they had a very serious problem where they couldn't, Android users were the largest market, and they wanted to deploy this on-device AI model, which will do detection on the device versus sending all the streams up to the cloud, where they would do the detection in the cloud. The phone was getting too heated when they tried to do that. Sometimes they just didn't have enough connectivity in some parts of Asia. So they were struggling with releasing this feature to the Asian markets. They looked at AI Hub and they took 2 of their models that are in the cloud. They were running them on iOS and Apple devices. They took those, they ran them through AI Hub, and they saw that they were working really well on the Snapdragon devices. So they went in and they then released that out to their customers in their app. They released it out, and the app went viral. This was actually happening during the Olympics era, Olympics time this year. It went viral with 1 million downloads overnight. And they were consistently having an average 85K downloads per day. So this is a story where an AI feature could not have been launched, and just because there was an easy, mainly because they couldn't really spend the time, energy to get all these devices, get them racked up, figure out what frameworks to put it, figure out how to actually get everything working. That would take engineering away from the new features they were building. And because of AI Hub, they could just do it within such a short period that they could release this model. So this is something that really excited us. They saw a huge number of increase in their downloads, and it's a great success story for us and for them. Today, as it stands, about 800 plus companies are using AI Hub, all of these. They experiment with the models every day. They upload their own models. They share models with each other. We on our side can't see your models. When you upload the models, you run them. You can share them with your teammates if you choose by creating an organization and sharing it, just like any other service. So that's one good thing where all these folks are iterating and building. You can go to AI Hub today. It's a real platform, real product that you can use right now. And as you can see, trying to see if, yeah. So you can see that we have models and solutions for compute and mobile and so on. We even have applications in all these models. We have taken the effort of taking all these models and actually running them ourselves through the platform so they are ready for you to use. One more little step where getting started can be made really easy. You can get started with any of these models right away on device. They will work out of the box. You don't even have to worry about it. I don't have to repeat this again, so I'll just ask you guys to go across the door, look at the product, try it yourself, and I think you will. I believe you'll love it because it just allows you to get started with on-device AI very, very quickly on the Snapdragon and Qualcomm platforms. That's the last slide. Thank you.